The one scene, the house is on fire. We can't really shoot that more than twice. We have our DP, Egol Nabrolatova, who is on a crane 50 feet in the sky on the beach, which is below because the house is on a hill. And she's shooting it, and like it's a beautiful shot, and the tide is coming in, and Egol is being swept out to sea on the crane while the house is on fire, while she's 50 feet in the sky. And I'm just like, did we get the shot? Did we get the shot? Can we get Egol down? Like, can we save the crane before it's out into the Arabian Sea,
Thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Movie Podcast. Thank you, Zarrar and Anam.
Thank you guys for having us.
Of course, no, we're so grateful for you sharing your time, and we love the film. So we're just we're so excited to be talking with you guys as well, which is it's awesome. Zarrar, we have to ask you first and foremost, where did In Flames begin for you? Where did this idea come from? Where did you pull from to start creating this film?
In 2018, I made a short film called Dia, which was like partially shot on my phone. I was doing this lab that was like filmmakers from Afghanistan and Pakistan. And like I made the film, the 24-minute film Dia, as part of that. And at that point, it was kind of this film that was just about a young woman who has a secret boyfriend. And it was very much a drama. And it after I finished the film, I realized that there was a lot of things that the film was touching on that I wanted to develop further, and that I had barely scratched the surface with in the short version. And also, I realized that the film was, even as a drama, it was scary. It was like a thriller, and I'm like, that was not the intention when we were writing the script, but there was so much fear like written into those relationships. And as I developed as an artist and my journey continued, and I kept, making shorts while also further developing this into a feature, I started really discovering like a love for genre and genre elements and what genre filmmakers are doing, and, discovering the works of D'Argento and John Carpenter, and then seeing what's happening today with like people like Julia Ducournau and Jordan Peele. And also, as I was writing it, I really had very close relationships with my talent, Bakhtaour Mazir, who plays the role of Fariha. And there was another actress who was initially attached. And I was doing my big rewrites during the pandemic, when everyone was like, the world's ending, let's just tell it like it is now. And these performers started telling me about the very real horrors that they were experiencing, working as artists and living as women in Pakistan. And those kind of like twinning with my passions of genre filmmaking led me kind of wanting to use this approach to tell this story, because I also think genre has this long history of being subversive, of allowing to tell truths that otherwise we might not have the flexibility and the permission, the creativity to tell without it feeling like message cinema. And I find that kind of cinema kind of exhausting personally. Like, I fucking hate Green Book. This kind of led to the creation of this film. For me, I grew up between Pakistan and Canada, and at like really pivotal ages, my family moved between the countries, and I really saw how a lot of my life, as a young boy, didn't change too much, but the lives of the women around me were really upended, and that left a lasting imprint. And then the last 10 years, I've been working out of Pakistan with my production team and meeting these incredible dynamic women, people like Anam, Anam made this incredible documentary, and wanting to also talk about the resilience and the hope, and the joy, and all of these kind of elements, I've tried to package into this film.
I love that you said subversive, because I think watching this film, both Shay and I and our co-host Anthony, who's not on the call with us, we were just so moved by how you're able to tell a story that one entertaining, of course, but also just touches on so many themes of morality and just humanity, and also sharing something that's real and raw. And I think that's just carries through the whole entirety of the film.
For both of you, just very curious, like what paths kind of led you to each other?
I mean, I've been stalking Alam's work, so not random for me.
Mutual fandom.
Yeah.
Same. Like, I think every time Zarrar would have a new short come out, I get really excited. Like, it was just like I was excited to watch, not like, because what is he going to do next? So yeah, it was like a no-brainer to, when we were like, all right, this is time for debut feature. Let's go.
I mean, we both overlap both in terms of like our principles and our approach towards creating films, but also the kind of films we like, which is like super rare, where it's like it's not just taste, it's also like the approach of how are we going to actually make this, and what team are we going to put together, and how are we going to build this story, because so much of storytelling is not just the story, but like the people you surround yourself with. And we try to create the best we could under the extreme circumstances we were going through.
We're both Canadian and Pakistanis, but like filmmakers who've been living and working in Pakistan, and like very opposed to, or like have thoughts about extractive filmmaking, and like and just ensuring where the voice is coming from, and like being exposed. Both of us have a very different exposure to the sort of the Western industry and market, but like we know what it's been like, and we know where we come from and what our position is, and the sense of responsibility that comes with it.
Anam, did you grow up in Toronto area as well too, or are you somewhere else in Canada?
No, I was born and raised in Pakistan. I moved to Canada when I was 18. Went to film school here. Worked here for a while. Produced some shorts with fellow graduates from film school from Sheridan. And honestly, 10 years ago, when I was thinking about starting my career here, it just did not feel like a great place for me. And I didn't think there was a place for my stories and my voice. And I chose differently. I chose a new path for myself. And for me, in many ways, like going back to Pakistan and thinking about a career there, making cinema there, was like, that wasn't the easy path, because there was nothing there. In 2012, there was one independent film that had made that was in cinemas. And in some ways things are worse now, because independent cinema films are not getting any distribution, and there's a lot more censorship because there are more voices now and more people making films. But like the last decade has been, on Zarrar's part and my part, like and so many other people in our community, building a community from scratch, and that's work that I will always continue to do. And so I'm very much, as a creative and as a producer, I occupy two worlds, and I think that's such a privilege and really exciting that I can do that.
And I think it's that you great that you touched upon that, because one of the things for me while watching this movie that was so powerful was knowing the fact the whole film was in Urdu. Like when the movie started, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, first couple of minutes probably in Urdu, and then it'll probably switch at some point. And it just kept going. And I was like wide-eyed. I was like, there's no way. The whole movie, are we going to actually do this? I don't have to use subtitles. Like that was a huge step for me. So really grateful for that. And that representation was so powerful, because we're seeing that so much now. We had Miss Marvel that just came out recently, and that kind of felt like brought Pakistan and all that light on us and said, hey, look, we're not just part of India. We're not just this. Like we can be so much more. And I think seeing something like this come out, which is so beautifully made, it's like, wow, that representation is just perfect. So really grateful to you guys for that.
Thanks. I mean, it's creating the representation like we didn't have, but now future generations will have it. And I'm excited to see how they push it further.
Canadian cinema too. It's, on the Pakistani side, you can say Joyland, Miss Marvel, Zindagi Tamasha, so many films are successful internationally. But on the Canadian side, as Canadian filmmakers, there's Rice Boy Sleeps. There's, more films this year in the program, The Screen of My Dreams. So, I think it's also, there's a need to redefine what Canadian cinema is, because us Canadians have an experience that is global.
Yeah. It's true. I saw it to use subtitles. Just
I tried translating for you.
As close
Shocking,
as
surprising.
I know.
Don't know Urdu?
As close as Shayar, he has not taught me yet. So that's something that I'm going to work on my own. But I want to ask both of you, because you got your film into Cannes and to the Toronto International Film Festival. What was that feeling like for both of you to have, like, this is something that we've made, we've given so much of ourselves and our souls to? How does it feel now to have it premiering, one, like, outside of Canada, and then in Canada as well, as hometown as being Pakistani Canadian, having it represented here?
Right, all good. No worries. Cannes was extremely like shocking and stressful and exhilarating, and like every emotion I've ever felt in my life. And TIFF has so far just been very like relaxing, because like the film, we already got reviews out, we've shared it exists in the world. Yeah, we kind of like resealed it after Cannes until TIFF, and we didn't show it anywhere. And now to bring it here, like we've only had one screening so far, but the community here has just really come out and been incredibly supportive, and from all angles. Like I'm seeing intersectional, like when me and Anam decided to build our careers back in Pakistan because we felt like there wasn't a space for us. There's Canadian creatives have been doing so much work in that while that we're now contributing to, but coming back now, there's suddenly so much intersectional community and support, and we're thrilled to be a part of that. And we're really witnessing that at this TIFF, where a lot of those filmmakers are now coming into their own. There's titles like Anam was saying, Queen of My Dreams, Backspot by DW, other creators who I was in the TIFF lab with. Watching those films come to fruition, I think we're in for a sea change of what Canadian cinema looks like. And I'm so thrilled that In Flames gets to be a part of that.
Canada is not Canada, and especially if we're looking like here in Ontario and Toronto, like some of the most diverse places in the world, right? So there are so many stories to be told there. And I'm curious, when you're shooting in Pakistan, what was that experience like for you? What were the challenges when you were shooting there? Just, telling the story.
Zarrar and I, because we've been working for a decade, we've built a community around just like the independent space, and that's very, very small, like extremely small. We all know each other, but and there's a lot of trust, but it's very hard to crew up when you're on an indie budget. And so it takes a very special kind of person who really believes in the cinema, believes in what we're doing. And that's really to our advantage as indie filmmakers, that when we're able to create in that kind of space, not a bad vibe in the crew, because there's so much intentionality, and I think that is a necessity of creating in a space where you're kind of really just on your own.
I have a good story about one of the hardest shots that we got. I mean, honestly, the whole shoot was amazing and exhilarating, and I got my first migraine and had to figure out what that was and how to survive. But, we were doing like 14-hour days. I think we had 6-hour turnarounds. We shot for 25 days straight. Our first shoot was 9 days in a row. It was insane,
Because of COVID, it wasn't going to be that way. We were trying to keep it chill, but then COVID,
but we were rescheduling in real time because people were getting COVID. We didn't have any money to do reshoots, so it was like, We're just going to keep this ship ahead. But yeah, the one scene, the house is on fire. We can't really shoot that more than twice. We have our DP, Egol Nabrolatova, who is on a crane 50 feet in the sky on the beach, which is below because the house is on a hill. And she's shooting it, and it's a beautiful shot, and the tide is coming in, and Egol is being swept out to sea on the crane while the house is on fire, while she's 50 feet in the sky. And I'm just like, did we get the shot? Did we get the shot? Can we get Egol down? Can we save the crane before it's out into the Arabian Sea,
She floats off to Tanzania, basically.
Yeah.
You meet her there.
She's got floaties on it.
That's the after credits,
Yes.
Yeah. And then I remember when we got the shot, we had to get the entire crew down to suck the crane out of the ocean because it had gone. The shoot was a miracle. And when I look at the footage, it's hard for me to enjoy it because I'm like, oh my God, the shot was so hard. But I'm really thrilled with how we captured Karachi, because I wanted to capture all the beauty and the pain and the frustration and the terror, but also the pleasure of that city. And I feel like it did that. So, yeah.
Shooting on location was I think the biggest challenge, and also the biggest, strength of the film.
Yeah, I would keep waiting for the end credits just to see okay, was it shot in Karachi? Because a lot of it did look familiar to me, but I'm like, I want to know how much. And it just right at the end there, you have that little part of the credits shot.
Gulshan, Jordan, represent. We were there.
This is my one thing about Miss Marvel, because they shot in Bangkok and they did B-roll in Karachi, and I love Miss Marvel and Sharmina Bitchnoy is like a mentor of mine, but I'm like, I know. Come on, guys.
That was my exact reaction. I'm like, I remember this part of Pakistan. This looks very Thailand to me. But I do have to ask, me going back there, every time I went back and I was hanging out with my cousins, the idea of possessions and ghosts were, I feel like, so embedded in Pakistani culture. There were always the stories that they wanted to tell. I'm curious how much of those urban legends kind of played into your story.
You know, I did religious studies growing up in Pakistan and being told about, like, in class about the ghost that's in the jinn that's in the room, and, you know, make sure you close your lights. And that's just part of the culture in such a deep way that living there, you just, it becomes part of your storytelling. It becomes part of your beliefs. And Karachi especially has like a Sufi tradition. And there's a huge culture of superstitions, of talismans, you know, and I've done some work in that region before where, you know, like I went and met with faith healers and shamans, and I always knew I wanted to explore that in the film and what that means, like, in the culture, because, you know, when we talk about ghosts, we're not talking about like it in like a theoretical way where like there is a third dimension and that's the one that all the jinns live in, and it's a very real thing. So it was always in my head that, you know, this is just, it's a part of life, and it's a part how it's also a way that characters like Fariha and Mariam would contextualize their life. So when they're experiencing horror and they're experiencing, you know, for them to see a ghost is not something that they're going to run off screaming away from. They're going to see it as something that is rooted in their reality because they live in this city. So because so much of the story and the film had to come from how their view of reality was, it also had to speak to jinns and ghosts, because that's part of the culture, it's part of the reality.
And beyond the metaphysical reality of our culture, I think that when you have a society that does not have social protection, figures like faith healers, what position do they then occupy in that society? When, you know, I think that's my favorite scene in the film, I would say, and I think that's
Not
very
mine.
predictive.
It's an intense scene. Well, Anam, Zarrar, you know, thank you both so much for spending good time with us today. This movie is fantastic, and I think we're in such a great spot for Canadian cinema, where you guys are really pushing that boundary forward. And the movie looks beautiful, plays beautiful. It's a movie that I can't wait to show my family, not even just for representation's sake, but for the fact that it's like, look, this is what can be done, not only just by Pakistanis, but also by Canadians. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What?